Man, what's going on? Chad here with Greenlight Shooting. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking appendix carry, man. So this is a question I get asked just so often. How and where do you carry? And the answer is I carry appendix. And then do you have any tips for carrying appendix? So yes. So before we get into that, quick rundown why I like appendix. Number one, it's just by far the most efficient draw position. I've tried every which way I can, and it's just the quickest, it's the most reliable, it's the cleanest, it's just the most efficient in any scenario. Number two is it's the most protectable position, right? Like if it's on your back, whatever, someone could take it, it could fall out, whatever. Up here, it's very, very protectable. Number three is you've always got eyes on it. What I mean by that is obviously, yeah, in a critical situation, whatever you're rolling around, you're fighting, you know it's there. But more realistically for me on a day-to-day basis is I can see if I'm printing or not, right? If like we're at the grocery store, if it's on my like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock on my back, I'm always wondering if it's like sticking out or if like it's printing. Up here, I can just glance down and look. And if it is, you know, just kind of readjust my coat or whatever, and it covers it. So I just always have eyes on it, and I like that a lot. So those are my primary reasons for carrying appendix. If you find that you would like to carry appendix as well, I do have a couple tips for you along the way. Number one, the most important thing you can do is find a good holster for you. Now, if you've watched the channel for a while, you know I roll with one company, and that company is Crossbreed Holsters. I've used these guys for like literally 4 years now, I think, exclusively, and I've been through every holster on the market before that. These guys are my favorite, mostly because of comfort. Now, comfort to me is the most important thing in a holster. If it's not comfortable, I'm just not gonna wear it. So that's what rules out all Kydex holsters for me. There are good Kydex holsters out there, don't get me wrong, but I like the feel of the leather on my skin. When I bend, it kind of bends with me, it forms and flexes to me. Kydex doesn't do that. Kydex just digs into my skin. So I can't do Kydex, at least for extended periods of time. The next thing is I can't do all soft holsters, like an all nylon holster or something like that, because they just collapse. And you know, like whatever, you're practicing your draw, you're practicing dry fire. Every time you draw the gun, the nylon holster or whatever it is just collapses closed. You have to get in there and open it. And then it also just doesn't feel as secure. It doesn't feel like, you know, there's a positive retention. It doesn't feel like there's any real safety over the trigger guard itself. So I don't mess with all soft holsters. So that's why I go with Crossbreed. You have this flexible leather backer, you have a hard Kydex shell, it covers your trigger guard completely, it locks into place, it's got positive retention so it's not gonna come out, you've got adjustability on your clips for cant, for ride depth, for all the good stuff. You've got things like claws to be able to pull those guns into you and conceal easier, plus every once in a while they've got really fun, you know, designs. So I roll with Crossbreed, that's just my preference. If you guys would like to pick up a Crossbreed, you can always save yourself 10% off anything on the Crossbreed website with code GLS10. Now, moving forward, once you've got that holster figured out for you, the next thing is get a good belt. A gun belt is very different than your standard everyday belt. These are, by the way, tips just for any kind of concealed carry, but get a good belt. Crossbreed makes great leather belts. Core makes great like gun kind of nylon-y belts. Those are the two belts that I roll with most often. You can get that 10% off with the Crossbreed leather belt. But yeah, a gun belt is imperative. They're significantly more like structured and sturdy and stiff so that they don't like flex with the holster. They keep their shape. They hold everything together for you. It's great. That's next in line. Now, once you've got that all figured out, number one is I like to get my pants a little bit bigger. I have probably like a 30-inch waist. I buy 32 or sometimes even 34-inch pants for the waist. That just gives me room to be able to throw a gun in there, throw a holster in there, and you know, cinch up a nice gun belt real tight. Number two is I wear those pants, the waist of those pants a little bit higher than I normally would. And the reason is because I want the gun to be sitting, so if like where I bend right here, I want the gun to be almost up here on my stomach rather than right here. Because if it's right here and I bend, this starts digging into my stomach. So I want it to ride a little bit higher than normal so that it doesn't interfere with that. And then the other thing is if I sit down like in a car or something like this, I sit down and this thing is no longer like an issue, right? I just hike my pants up just a hair higher than normal, boom. And it's not like trying to fight with the natural bend of my body. Now let's quickly address this, because when this firearm is sitting right here, you get a lot of trolls online saying you're gonna shoot your pee-pee off. And I'm not gonna lie, it's something you gotta get over, right? Like, the first thing you learn about firearms is don't point at anything you don't want to destroy. You certainly don't want to destroy your junk, but that is something that comes along with appendix carry. So you have to, you kind of have to figure out your way around that. For me, it's trusting in a good quality holster, something that covers my trigger guard, something that is hard and rigid, something that the gun's not gonna fall out and something get into the trigger guard and pull that trigger. So yeah. Next up is a very serious concern, which is going to the bathroom. Like, if you have to go pee and this thing is riding right up on your belt, well, you kind of have to make a decision. What do you do? Number one, obviously the easiest is just go into a stall. That's what I do. If a stall isn't available and it just has to be a urinal or whatever, there's a couple different options. Sometimes I'll unclip it, and like if it's under my shirt, I'll just kind of hold it under my shirt, hold it under my shoulder there, go pee, readjust, boom, and we're back to it. Yeah, that's kind of probably my go-to if I have to go urinal, but I'm going stall anytime I can. Next thing I want to talk about is where this thing actually sits on your body. So for me, I'm rolling this thing right there in the middle, one clip on either side of the buckle if possible. I've tried it right here before. I don't love it as much. I don't get quite as good of a conceal. This grip sticks out a little bit more, and I don't get as clean of a draw. Right here is where I've found the most success. And I think you'll find that most people that carry appendix seriously, that's where and how they carry as well. So I'd recommend right dead center. If you don't have a belt buckle that is small enough to get a clip on either side of, you can just rotate that belt, have the buckle line up with like your left hip or just like a 10 o'clock position or something like that. So it leaves the front wide open for 2 clips. That's the other thing. Get yourself a holster with 2 clips for appendix. You don't want a single clip because it allows this thing to happen. Get 2 clips. It's much sturdier. It's much more comfortable. This is the Crossbreed Reckoning, by the way. That's what I recommend. Now, let's talk about the actual draw from appendix position. Why is it so efficient, and how do you make it that efficient? So most of these tips are coming from watching some of the great shooters and trainers out there. Specifically, Scott at Modern Samurai Project has a lot of great info on appendix carry drawing. So definitely check him out if you're interested. But some of the things that I've picked up from him, number one, has to actually do with your shirt or the thing covering your firearm. I used to go all the way to the bottom. I used to grasp down here and expose my gun and draw. That leaves a lot of variables up for debate. Number one is the variable of like, how long is your shirt? What kind of shirt are you wearing? There's a lot of different things like that. Number two, when you grab from the bottom, it allows the corners right here and here to potentially catch on something. So I prefer not to grab from there at all. What I've learned to do, and again, Scott explains this very well, is grasp at your belly button. So it's the same regardless of what shirt, regardless of what clothing you're wearing, you grasp where your belly button is. Your eyes can be closed, you can be looking anywhere, you know where your belly button is, right? Boom, grasp, pull. So it eliminates all of those variables. Next is how high do you pull? I pull to like my sternum right here. So you can find somewhere, basically you're just trying to clear the gun. Once you're clearing the gun, find a position that works for you. I go to there every single time. That again, just gets rid of any possible variables. Then, once the firearm is completely cleared, when I'm grasping the firearm from the holster, I used to try and grasp it in a standard position with my thumb around the grip just like this, and that created a lot of issues. I couldn't get my thumb back behind the gun well enough, so I'd end up with a grip that looked like this, and then I'd end up having to readjust my grip to get a good solid grip on the handgun. Obviously, that's not realistic in a combat scenario. So again, what I found, especially from Scott, is wrapping the top of my thumb over the top of my rear sights. That way, I come in, I put my fingers as high on the gun as I possibly can, I get my thumb up on top over the rear sights, which just enforces my fingers getting up higher on that grip. I draw, and my thumb just drops down into position. Now, I've got a super clean, high, solid grip on the gun, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to readjust, anything like that. Same thing when I'm reholstering, boom, thumb goes up on top of rear sights, into holster, and I'm clear. Then once you cleared your holster, there are kind of two schools of discipline as far as I know in terms of presentation. One is coming all the way up to a high ready and pressing out like that. And the other is sort of a direct line from your pressed out position from your holster, right? So from here to here, or boom, boom. Scott preaches the second one, and I think that's probably the smartest. The thing that you have to avoid is ending up doing this kind of like swooping thing, because it's inefficient, it's dangerous, whatever. That's all I've got for you, man. That's a lot of information right there. Take it all in. Let me know what you think about appendix carry. I've found, after carrying for 7 years, using a ton of different holsters, a ton of different firearms, that appendix it's my favorite for me. I realize that it works best for my body type, my activity level, my style of living. So I'm not saying this is right for everyone. Figure out what works best for you, but for me, appendix is the answer. Either way, make sure you find yourself a good holster. Once again, Crossbreed Holsters, GLS 10, get you 10% off anything on their website. That's all I've got for you guys today. So if you guys enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are down for the ride, and I'll catch you next time on Green Light Shooting. Peace out.